Hi, Kary.
Hi, Kara.
How are you?
Coming. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Oh, you look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited. I've tuned into as much as I could today.
Oh, good. So you know what's happening then. I don't
So
have
I,
to.
yep, I saw, the first lady with the retail. I should probably open that window so I have everybody's name. But of course, I know Wendy and Lele. But everybody had some really great input. I hope you're having a great day. I think it's going well.
It is, it's going great.
Yeah.
It's the end of the day. You're my fifth one. So I'm a little like.
You've got to be exhausted. You've been on all day.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. And I am exhausted.
I bet.
It's so fun. And I love getting to meet so many women in this industry. It's just, I'm a social person as it is, but to be able to do this and to, not just meet you in an environment where it's like, hey, we're having a drink. What do you do? What do you do? But I actually get to sit down with you and have a really good conversation.
Right?
That's the best.
You had some great, and I think people are, if they're tuning in, they're getting a lot from this. And what nice exposure for you. And right, you're bringing great content.
Thank you very much. I hope that, the goal really is to get women ready for this industry because it is a challenge. And
oh, you have no idea what we're going through. It is something like we've never seen before. It's like a war zone, and it's crazy, but I'll give you the lowdown. I'll give you the lowdown.
I am very looking forward.
But it's been fun. What's been great is that a lot of people have been kind of hanging back because they didn't want to misstep, and they kind of waited till the last minute, but now they're really jumping in, and people are producing some beautiful things. They're getting to market. They're having those wins. They're getting their licenses one by one, but it has been so tough on our California community, just so tough.
Well, I interviewed, I think it was Heather Schaefer, and she said they're calling it an extinction event.
Well, and that really makes sense. It has been brutal on our community, and it's not the year everybody promised us. Last year they're saying you're going to see 8 times the growth, so you better be prepared. And we did not see that because the legal market has pulled people away from, the illegal market has pulled people away. It's cheaper, Hang
on 1 second. That's my assistant. Hi.
I'll be back.
I am. Yep, Kary's here. I'm here. I'm just going to refill my drink and run to the bathroom. She's gone. So just log on and we'll be ready to go in about 5 minutes. Okay.
And Kira,
yes.
it's Kira, right? Kira.
Yep.
I'm pronouncing that right. Okay.
Yes. And your last name is Radestock?
It's Radestock. So
Radestock.
Three syllables, Radestock, but that's fine. It's close enough.
Thank you. All right, go get your drink. I'm going to go to the bathroom and we'll see you back there in 2 minutes. Okay. Whew. And it is warm in my office.
Where are you located?
in the Central Valley.
Oh, so like Sacramento?
Further south, Turlock.
Okay, wow. Yeah, it's got to be hot. I'm in San Diego, so I'm fortunate, but it's been hot for here.
It's been hot all over and only getting hotter.
That's right.
But okay, so packaging. This is going to be, I mean, of all the people I've spoken with in the last month, this is probably the one that means the most what's happening in California right now.
Yep.
I mean, you heard us talking about the fact that a lot of people are being forced into using plastics and they don't want to do that. Bottlenecking because everybody's in a mad rush to get it at the same time and they can't get it. So after you answer my question, if we could get into just kind of, I want to hear what's going on behind the scenes and you know, because a lot of us are in the dark except from our own perspective of what we were dealing with today.
Right.
So maybe kind of like a real overview of what's happening, where you see things going. There's not very many people doing packaging in the state, right?
Well, you know, there are a few, but I mean, we're definitely we're overwhelmed. All of us who are doing packaging are overwhelmed. And, but it's a very busy time and everybody needs pretty much the same thing. So once, you know, you can only package products a certain way. For flour, you've got ... For vapes, you've got ... the things that are compliant. So we only have a few options. And more are coming out, and that's part of it. That's part of why people are holding back to see if they can find something better. Oh, God. But it's been tough. It has been tough. So now you started this academy, and is it a learning academy? Tell me a little bit.
Well, we started out as a single course.
Okay.
And so I got 5 other women who are professionals coming from a professional background into cannabis. And we did a 6-module course. And the concept was, we're going to teach you the business basics. Here's what you need to know about law and working with attorneys. And, oh, by the way, you work in cannabis, so here's what you need to know. Because what I found was there were a lot of women getting into the industry who were excited about starting a new business and had no business acumen. They were coming from the corporate world. They were, oh yes, hello, Kendra is here. Come on in, let's see.
Was Kendra the one who was in your, gosh, I think I tuned in to the woman who was the first woman. She was the retail woman. Might have been your second.
That was, that is Jamie, and Jamie is the one who usually co-hosts with me every Monday for Mentor Monday. She kind of handles all the technical stuff behind the scenes. And so what I'm doing, I can't ask Jamie to be on all of these with me. So I thought, well, why don't I take some of my brilliant friends?
That's fun.
For instance, Kendra.
Hi, Kendra.
And so packaging is relative to what she's doing, but has never had an opportunity to really sit down with somebody in packaging and ask her questions. So I'm kind of matching up women that I know to come on and co-host with me to ask other women things that are relevant and important to them that's outside their sphere.
And Kendra, what do you do? I can't hear her.
Audio, lady.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, gorgeous.
Working on my external microphone and everything. I do marketing and social media. So helping cannabis companies reach their audience, build their strategy, their plan, figure out what they need, and actually do it.
God, way to go, girlfriend. It's a lot.
So 3, 2, 1, real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you both. I'm going to ask you the question, Kary. You're going to answer it. Kendra and I can ask you questions based on that. And then at some point, we'll get to Kendra asking you a question. I have a feeling this interview is going to be longer than 30 minutes. I don't know if you need to end at 5 o'clock, but we don't have anybody after you. So as far as I'm concerned, we can go as long as we need to. Okay. All right, ready?
Yes.
All right. Hello, ladies, and welcome to our final interview for today. In the pursuit of the making of the smartest person in the room, we chose today to talk about the supply chain. And to end our day, we've had retail, distribution, manufacturing, cultivation, and now we're going to talk packaging. And this is a really, really big one for a lot of us in this industry, especially in California right now, because we are struggling with this bottleneck of our regulatory guidelines have come down as of July 1st. If we are not package compliant, our products cannot be on the shelves. And so it's created a lot of problems for us. And we're really excited to have Kary here to answer this question and to help guide us through some serious packaging conundrums that we're in right now. So Kary, thank you so much for coming. And we're really looking forward to talking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, Kira.
And my co-host today is Kendra. You have seen her around the group. I've met her in person, have had the pleasure of interacting with her in one way or another, and I'm so happy to have you with me today.
Thank you for letting me join, especially this session. I'm really excited about it.
I know, I love it. So Kendra's in marketing, and from the perspective of marketing, packaging is really, really important that anyone in marketing has a full grasp on packaging, even though it's completely outside of our true expertise. So it's going to be really interesting to have the two of you together today. Okay, ladies, please ask questions in the comments. These experts are here to help answer your burning questions as well as mine. So we have a little bit more time with Kary today, so please take advantage of it. All right, Kary, what do we need to know to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to
That is a big question. And I mean, I put together a couple of bullet points for you, but you know, to be honest with you, our first speaker today, the woman in retail, she talked about building the retail experience for the consumer. It's not really, this is not a glory thing for us. This is not where we get, it's got to please us, but that's not why you're building your brand. You're building a brand to appeal to the consumer. So packaging is an extension of your brand, and it's usually the only physical manifestation of your brand besides the product. So it's got to stand out. It's got to spell quality. It's got to be beautifully designed. It's got to represent your brand. It's got to continue that message. So first, job number one, develop your brand around the consumer, around your target consumer. Make sure that you're speaking to them in their language. You're appealing to them with your color choices, with your brand, your logo, your story. Make sure it resonates with that target market. And target markets can change. You know, there's a lot of talk about going after soccer moms and baby boomers, because those are the fastest growing market sectors in our space today. And it's definitely appealing, but different brands have a different story. I mean, look at Brass Knuckles. They're going for that younger male, and they're killing it. But then look at Candescent, one of the best selling branded flower brand in the state, because of his elegant look, feel, the way they develop that brand, and their packaging. Their packaging is amazing. So job one, develop your brand to actually appeal to your consumer, and let that be reflected in your packaging. Make sure it is. The second thing is more practical. And, you know, we're talking about supply chain, and what really, really kind of, I don't understand is that people don't know how much packaging they need. They don't know how many versions they have. They come and just say, I've got to package my stuff. And then we're going, okay, let's look at the product line. So we break it down by product line. But it's really important to know when you're ordering packaging, if you're wanting to get the best bang for your buck, you're going to want to run 3 months of packaging at a time. You know, especially if that's a domestic supplier, you'll want to at least get your projections down so you're not running every month. That's expensive. You don't need to do that. You're always chasing to try to keep your products on the shelf. Get yourself stable, have enough packaging to last you 3 months. If your production is overseas, you may even consider 4 to 6 months. Now, with regulations changing, we tend to, you know, that's kind of mainstream guidelines. But with cannabis, we tend to do a little bit shorter projections and cycles, only because the regulatory landscape is so quickly moving. It moves a lot quicker in cannabis than it does in mainstream. But I still say for California, you have got until December to get through your packaging. Their regulations are not going to shift between now and then, or if they do, your packaging, if you're compliant today, you will be compliant until then. So order as much as you can so you can get the best unit costs on your packaging and bring down your costs. Let's see, and then also on your packaging, a really nice way to elevate your brand without, that you should also think of is decorating techniques on your packaging. A lot of people are using foils and embossing and using really high-end papers because they're trying to express the brand. They're trying to express the quality of the brand, the natural, organic, or, pesticide-free is what we can really say. We can't say organic. They're really, trying to express their brand through the choices they make in the decorating techniques and the actual materials you use to package your products. So those are the things that I think I would probably recommend to really give yourself success in packaging.
So let me ask you then, when it comes to making packaging decisions, like we had talked about just in our last interview with Wendy, there are a lot of people who are forced now into compliance, and that compliance equals plastic.
It is. I heard that interview, and nicely done, Wendy and Lele. So it's a heartbreak because our industry is really, is really pro-environment and really taking care of Mother Earth and not polluting it. And that's what our entire industry, that's the values we stand on. And for us, and especially, when I have clients come to me and say, we really want a sustainable child-resistant option. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I've got bad news for you, because that, for example, we are in child-resistant testing right now for a product, and it's a paper-based product, and you can actually, it's a really cool product. I don't know if you can see it, but you press in, boom, boom, and you got your vape cartridge or edibles or whatever. It's very, very cool. It's called the BurgoPack Dual Lock, and we're in child-resistant testing, which has been a nightmare. We can talk about that in a little bit longer, but it's likened to Chinese water torture. This particular piece could actually be recycled, even though it uses some plastic in it because it needs it for the structure and the strength, but it can be taken apart and separated and recycled if one factor. We had to put a plastic lamination on the inside of this box in order to make it tear resistant so the kids couldn't chew through it. And so because of that, most states won't take paper that's laminated with plastic. Yeah. So therein, that throws that scenario out. Some do, some don't, but it's like the industry, the packaging industry, we're really looking for those sustainable options. And it's very tough for us right now. The one good thing about this newest regulatory change in California is that as of July 1st, we didn't need a double ding packaging. We didn't need exit bags, Mylar exit bags that are just terrible for the environment, in addition to child-resistant packaging. We did have both requirements for the first 6 months. And then they dropped off that exit packaging. So we no longer have the option of taking regular packaging and throwing it into an exit bag and saying, okay, now you're covered. That's no longer an option, but exit packaging in itself has also been eliminated, which is, I think, a pretty good step towards the environment. I was very happy to see at least that let go in this last round.
Yeah, I must have spent $20 and now I have 20 bags because I kept forgetting to take them.
Of course.
And what else am I going to use them for? I can't even open half of them once they're closed.
You didn't talk them into free ones?
No. So on that line, Kary, when it comes to the compliant packaging, I haven't seen anything that looks good. I mean, what I've seen a lot of is I'm going to run off on my printer some labels and then stick it on this packaging that I have. I don't see anything that really looks good yet. And, you know, I don't know. I haven't been in a dispensary since July 1st, so I don't know what to expect. But based on the last 6 months,
well, you know, there are some good options out there, but very few. And what people have done, you know, the regulations were set back in November of last year, and then at that time they gave us 6 weeks to basically get compliant. Which, when you're doing your packaging, that's not time to get compliant. So everybody had to rush out and buy stock jars and stock bags and throw a label on them. That's the only thing you could do to keep your product in market and not lose shelf space. So, but then the regulations kind of shifted and people didn't know what was going on, and people were kind of like, I'm not going to believe this. I don't want this to be true. And just kind of put their heads in the sand. As an industry, a lot of people kind of did that. And then when we had the extension back, you know, about a month, 6 weeks ago, before the first, we heard it was an extension. All of a sudden, everybody went, oh, I got 6 more months. And then they just stopped. And they didn't realize, no, you don't. You don't have 6 more months. So then it was just a mad scramble. It has been a mad scramble. And we are, you know, now for stock bags and stock jars, we are selling them out while they're in the containers coming over from China, because most of this stuff comes from China, right? So that we used to have plenty in warehouses in the States, because they'd bring over by the container load, and then people would just shop and buy them as they need it. But there's such a high demand, they can't even, we are having to place orders while they're on the container in order to reserve them. It's like a war zone. We're all, my whole production team, we're like, we are in a war zone. And so we have to tell everybody this is based on availability. It changes every day. We're in constant touch with our suppliers to find out what's available, because, you know, you've got several jars. The most common things are jars for 8s, probably, right? And bags for 8s for the growers. But, and so you've only got a few options that look good or represent your brand well. So most people are really having to do labels on jars while they're putting together their next iteration, which will be much more beautiful. However, there's also some reluctance to spend too much money, because the regulations are going to change again. You know, come December, you know, when they have the weigh-in time, you know, we're going to have public comment period, back and forth. We're going to have a shift in regulations. We're going to have another change. I don't see child-resistant packaging going away, but maybe some of the language will change. And typically, I'm hoping they'll give us a little more time to be compliant. Otherwise, you'll have existing packaging out there with labels stuck on it because the regulations changed. You know, in Colorado, Dixie, back a few years ago, they changed the regulations on them. And Dixie has their elixirs, right? And they built their brand on those Dixie elixirs in those aluminum cans. And they were really beautiful and cool. All of a sudden, you know, Colorado said, nope, you have to now have a dosing cup with your, it's got to be child resistant and a dosing cup. And so they're like, oh, whoa. They had to go and spend about 6 to 8 months and $300,000 to retool these jars, these plastic jars, to tool them and to get them to where they could be compliant. And so now, instead of using a tin can, they're using a wrap over it, a shrink film over a plastic jar that's made to look like a can. And all that money that they had to spend, I mean, if it were a company that didn't have the resources, that would have been the end of them, you know. And some of these regulations are kind of willy-nilly, and it really leaves our smaller cannabis businesses, you know, in a pretty precarious situation.
So I have a quick question. I know, Kendra, you've got a question. I want to ask you a little side bit here. Are the tariffs going to affect the packaging? Is that something that we may need to be aware of?
I think I had our compliance guy looking at that today. He says it's going to be affecting the vape cartridges for sure. But it may affect packaging as well. We're still looking into it. That just came up today.
Thank you. Kendra.
So I had a question because you were talking about going back to the December and the regulations. What do you recommend is the lead time for changing your packaging or for working on that process, right? Like how long should people plan on to expect? I mean, there's the design piece and I know that takes its own amount of time, but when you actually look at drilling in and finding the right packaging, to the time it actually arrives and you get it and it can be in production and out to the stores, what time frame do you recommend giving to people?
And that's such a great question, Kendra, and thanks for bringing it up, because people come into me and we also do brand development, and so they'll come to us and say, wow, we're so excited, we're going to get started and we want to be on the shelf in 60 days and we're going to build a brand and do our packaging and produce it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, that is not going to happen. I mean, because if you rush things, it will look rushed. You really need to take the proper time. So the proper amount of time, sometimes we don't have. We can squeeze it a little bit, but we can't squeeze it so much that you lose quality. And you have to make tough choices based on it. So, brand development, I usually like to tell people 8 to 12 weeks. Plan on that if you're starting from scratch. You need about 8 to 12 weeks to at least come up with your look and feel and what you're going to do and deciding what your products are and do all of that, so you need that kind of time. But packaging, depending on if it's domestic or if it's international. If it's international, it's 90 to 120 days to get it here. And so you need to plan ahead. That's why for international, we recommend that you do 4 months, at least 4 months in advance, because it takes about 4 months to get it here, 3 to 4 months. Once you get to a rerun, of course, that's going to be faster. Usually international, China, India, wherever we're producing outside of the States, it's usually about 30 days for the proofing process, back and forth, about 30 days for manufacturing, could be a little bit more if it's a tin or something like that. And then it's 30 days for shipping. So you've got at least 90 days, and that's if everything goes smooth as a whistle, and that's from you delivering files. So there's also the work that you have to do before delivering files. Like you have to get die lines, you've got to set up your art, you have to do mock-ups and look at white paper dummies and make sure you're approving everything. So that's international. Domestic, typically from proof approval, we can have packaging delivered in about 12 to 15 working days. So you're thinking 3 weeks, but that's from proof approval. The proofs take another couple of weeks. Then you've got to do shipping. We try to produce in California for California, but sometimes, a couple of days in shipping. And so you're looking at probably a 60-day turn, 45 to 60-day turn for domestic and 3 to 4 months for international. That was a long way to answer that, wasn't it?
No, but that's a lot of pre-planning, right?
Yeah.
So if you're talking about people, with the changing regulations being up in December and planning for that,
and that's why those projections, I apologize, Kendra, I didn't mean to step on you, but that's why those projections that I recommended early on are so important. And it's so important to look at your history of your spend and buy product line and make sure you're ordering enough so you're not caught up, because right now everybody in packaging, everybody who's printing packaging and for the cannabis industry, they are very, very busy. Some of our domestic suppliers that used to be 3 to 4 weeks are saying we are overwhelmed. We are now 5 or 6 weeks. Now it's almost just as fast to go to China as it is to produce it here in America, for half the price. So you have to weigh that out, and you've got to look at the landscape, which is ever changing in our wonderful industry.
What are you seeing as a result of this, as someone said, piss poor planning? To bring us where we are today, which is what's being called an extinction event. From your perspective in packaging, you've just given us a timeline. What else can we do as manufacturers and as retail to make sure that this extinction event doesn't happen again in December?
Well, I think that everybody's kind of getting on board with it, because there was kind of a disbelief that this was really coming. People have said to me, how in the world could this industry be so behind that. They know this was coming. How could they be forced to destroy $350 million worth of product that wasn't compliant? And we've been looking at it too, looking at our clients, and we're like, we've given them proposals back in January. They come 6 months later and say they're ready, because I think there has been people waiting for that next big thing, that better thing. They want to put it off as long as they can because something better is around the corner, and there's some really cool CR packaging in development. So yes, there is. But now I'm kind of lost track of your question.
How do we prepare so that it doesn't happen in December?
Well, make sure you're compliant now with all of your regulations. Lori Ajax has been sitting at the table with a lot of people and talking about these regulations, and she said, our goal is not to put you out of business. Our goal is to get you compliant. And if you're trying, if you're showing that you're doing your due diligence and something just went wrong, they're not going to shut you down for that. So be ready. Look at those regulations. Check it out. Have your ducks in a row. And I mean, to be honest with you, it's very tough. What makes it tough right now for this community is that there's so much expense involved in the licensing, getting their properties licensed, getting their facilities licensed, getting all of those licensings. It doesn't leave anything left for packaging or brand development or marketing. Marketing is the last thing people think of, and it's something it is critical, and it's just because our industry is so overtaxed with all of these regulations. Well, 6 months later, they know it now. They've gotten through some of these hurdles that they've had to get through with the other licensing. So we should see, hopefully, we are going to see a lot of fallout. That's for sure, because people are just underfunded. The investors are coming into this market faster than ever before, but there's still, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and businesses are still a little underfunded.
Interesting. So what is some of your advice about how we go about designing our packaging? I know that with a lot of the warning labels, especially on smaller packages, the whole thing can be eaten up and forget your branding. It's all warning labels. So what advice can you give us in how we start approaching the design of this packaging?
Well, a lot of people are using the primary container as like, say a balm jar or something like that. You've got this primary container. It doesn't give you a lot of room for any branding, no story, no brand story, nothing really, but identifying what the product is and a little bit of warning label. So a lot of people are doing what we call carton overwrap boxes. So it's just basically a box. This is for a client in Colorado. You can't see it. We didn't design it, but they did some cool things with a finishing, which is called cold foil here. And they put foil down and then they print on top of it. But this is basically a carton overwrap. It's just a little box that a pop top goes in. So now they can further the brand message with that. This is another one.
Okay, wait, go back to that package, because that doesn't look child resistant to me. Is it child resistant? Inside.
What is child resistant is the pop top that's in. So the pop top, takes care of that child resistant quality. They're going to have to put this in here and put a tamper seal on it, or they're going to have to do a shrink film around that pop top so that it's also tamper evident.
Got it.
Now this one is a good example of here's like for a little vape cartridge, right? It's got a window. A lot of people want to see their flower through the window. And it's just a little pop top, and then we pull out this, which is child resistant, which is a tube, and that goes in that pop top and the vape cartridge.
There is so much packaging waste.
There's not a lot we can do now. This one is very popular right now because this one is still in development, and people would rather not to have two different.
Absolutely.
Right. So
yeah.
That this one is in certification. And it's certified today. We had kids testing it today. It's past adults, but every day we have 10 more kids coming, and we're expecting this to be approved by the end of the week. But people have been waiting for this for 6 months, and the child resistant testing the laboratories, because of the cannabis industry, have been overwhelmed. So what used to take, you know, a month is now taking 3 to 4 months. You can't get enough kids. There's such an overwhelm, you know, this industry is overwhelming, you know, these services that have been typically reserved for pharma and, you know, some of these other products.
I never pictured that the actual child-proof resistant packaging was actually tested by real children.
I didn't either.
I don't know why that never occurred to me.
It is. Well, and I'm learning so much about that right now, which is just like, oh my God, we've been going for so long, but we're getting day by day, and they're on site. Our partners are on site observing this child resistant packaging. And so first we got through the seniors, and we got through with flying colors, because the rule about child resistant packaging is you've got to, 50 seniors have got to be able to open it with less than a 10% fail rate. So they've got to be able to use it and be.
Okay, well then the Mylar bags they were sending us home with were not tested by seniors, because I couldn't even open them 80% of the time.
They were so challenging.
Don't
close that. Don't close that all the way.
Yeah, leave it just a jar. But it's interesting because we would, at my house, we would always say, and how are seniors supposed to open this? So it's really interesting that they're doing testing on both children and seniors. I'm actually kind of glad to know that.
Yeah, they are. And now, and then the kids have to be a certain age range. They're under 5, but you have to have X amount of kids in, you know, up to 2 years old, and then another at the 3-year-old, and then another the 4-year-olds, and then the 5-year-olds. And you have to have a certain amount of kids from each of these age groups. And the older boys, I mean, so what they do is they'll put them in a room and usually get about 10 kids, and they're given a package, and they say there's something in there and we want you to get in it. And they're like, okay. And you have 5 minutes, and they time them. And after 5 minutes, if they haven't been able to get in, they'll show them how to open it and say, oh, and you can use your teeth. So, I mean, it's almost like encouraging them. And so we're just like, oh, so, I mean, we've had a few iterations fail because the older boys, they're just like, oh, this is bad luck. But these older boys would just get up there and start jumping on them. Then other boys would see the others jumping on them. And this is a folding carton. It's going to crack with that, you know, but we're not used to seeing that kind of abuse to a package. So it has been very much a challenge, but it's also keeping our kids safe. There's reasons for it. And there is times when it makes sense for us to make sure that these products are in child resistant packaging, because kids love to eat stuff, you know, and we don't want them to get sick.
Absolutely agree, right? Like you see a chocolate bar, you see a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
Especially as a kid, but I had no idea that was how it was tested. That's amazing.
So so when we say child resistant packaging, people up to age 18 are considered children, but are they testing this on kids up to 18? I can't believe that.
No, it's up to 5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So
at 6, they're on their own, huh?
That's right. Hopefully the parents instilled a little sense in them.
So we have a question. Scott Hallmeyer has asked, so if we do a double box style package, how little info can we get away with on the main product label?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the main product, and the regulations change versus cannabis versus a cannabis product, and it's very well defined. Cannabis is flower, pre-rolls, kief, shake, or leaf. Everything else is a derivative of it, and it's a cannabis product. So for cannabis, you really just have to say the net weight on the front and that it's cannabis. You know, that's really what you have. If it's a cannabis product, you have to have the universal, and it changes by state, right? Okay, so I'm talking California right now. So if it's a cannabis product, such as shatter or wax or edibles or whatever, or even balms, it has to have the universal symbol on the front. It has to be written. It has to be in black. And this is, a lot of people are making a mistake on this and doing a reverse out in a white or something like that. The regulations state clearly, printed in black on a contrasting background. Well, if you've got a real black kind of, you know, you're going to have to do a halo around it, or you're going to have to find out some clever design ways to make that look okay on your package. So, but then on the back, you have to have the government warning label in no less than 6-point type. It's got to be bold. You've got to have all your testing results, and those are variable. So this is another challenge that's facing our industry, is they have to print these variable labels by batch numbers, batch codes, the testing results, all of that has to be variable. So they are now forced, we're recommending that they take that in-house and own that part of the supply chain and buy industrial label printers. And we are trying to integrate that variable label beautifully into the packaging so it doesn't look like an afterthought. So really trying to make sure we have a mainstream audience really coming into this industry, and we have to appeal to them with mainstream quality in our packaging and making sure that you are paying attention to all the details. That's what Candescent does so beautifully. They pay such close attention to the details.
So I've got a question for you about outside of California. So I'm working with a client in Puerto Rico, and it's a vertically integrated experience. We're actually going to be manufacturing our own products. Every state is different. So we may end up finding more states coming online where there is some vertical integration in this way, where in order to be a manufacturer, you also have to be a cultivator, which is what's happening in Puerto Rico. So in this case, we're thinking about, okay, we want to make cookies to put in our Mylar bags with a sticky label on it. I mean, how do we think about this a little differently? If we're not on a big budget, if we're in this kind of vertical integrated situation, if we're just starting out, and there are going to be states coming online as well that have zero history in cannabis. So they don't have any infrastructure built, and they're going to just kind of be starting from zero with nothing. What do you recommend in these kinds of situations when it comes to the challenge?
Well, I think it's really smart. Like Arizona doesn't have their regulations fleshed out yet. And, we have clients in Arizona, and we really had to look at that landscape and look at the difference in price between a CR package versus a non-CR package. And if they do not have regulations, then why spend the extra money? There's that train of thought. Why, just get your product out there, follow your current regulations, keep an eye on what's going on in some of these leading states like Colorado, Washington, California, because that's probably the way the nation will go. Some people are going and saying, I want to be ahead of the regulations. I want to go CR right now. I want to, and that's fine too. They're being responsible, trying to take ownership and leading the charge. So I've seen both of those things happen. And then let's see, I've lost the train of what the rest of your question, what you were asking.
Okay, well, let's just say I'm a product maker.
Okay.
And I make cookies.
Oh yeah.
And I want to figure out how to get my cookies in a nicely branded bag.
Well, now I always recommend look at mainstream. What are cookies in? Look at mainstream, how they're packaging them. The thing that we have about cookies is we can't show them. They've got to be in opaque packaging, at least for California. In Colorado, all cannabis products have to be in opaque packaging. So like the little jars I just showed you, this one would not work in Colorado because they need to be in opaque packaging.
So anything that you're buying?
What'd you say?
You can't see anything that you're buying?
No, not in Colorado. They can open it up. You can open it up and show you. They can show you pictures on a screen, but the packaging itself has to be opaque. And in California, the only packaging that has to be opaque is edibles. And your edibles, you can't even show a picture of your edibles. So you're really at a disadvantage if you're trying to, if you're wanting to show your stuff. So basically what you would have to do is if you wanted to print a photo of your edible, if it's a beautiful artisanal hand-dipped chocolate, you can put it on your point of purchase display. Have it beautifully displayed there because that's not going home with the client. So you could do that, posters in the environment, that kind of thing.
Could you do to go old school a little bit, retro old school, like a QR code? That way people could snap a picture of it and pull it up on their phone right then?
Yeah, you could. And you can do, absolutely. You can absolutely do that. There's some others that you can do, that you tap it and you can take a picture of the label, and a video will pop up as well.
Yeah.
But a QR code, and but a lot of people are lazy and they may not do that. So you want to try to make it as easy for the consumer as possible, and appeal to them with your product. So maybe putting a picture or the brand story, or just making sure it's out there. And in terms of packaging it, your first line of defense for edibles is you want to keep them sealed so that they stay fresh, usually if it's a cookie, right? So typically you're going to have to put that in a bag. That's your cheapest, and a stock bag with labels. That's the easiest, but then you can go custom. You can do custom printed bags that are actually very beautiful for edibles, and they are, and I wish I had a picture of them, but like this is a flower bag, but we do also have custom printed edibles bags that really express the brand beautifully, even though it's in a flexible bag. Because I always think of flexible packaging as not quite as premium as some of the others, you know. So, you know, in addition, if that, because this has got to be child resistant, resealable for more than one serving. Edibles, that's a requirement. So that's why bags are a really good way to go. With our burger pack, this is also, yep.
Can you show the bag again?
Yep. One of these bags.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
No, and this one's got a soft touch finish. It's really beautiful. It's got a little bit of foil coming through in here. It's printed on a foil bag, and what we do is we spare out the ink so that a little bit of the sheen will shine through. You know, that's what's fun for us, is getting to figure out how to decorate it and make it beautiful using what we have to work with.
Right. No, I mean, it's a beautiful bag, considering.
Thank you.
Might take me 10 hours to open it, but
yeah, you bet you'll get there. But so yeah, and there are more expensive ways to package your edibles, and some people are looking at something like this, and maybe what they would do is put a poly tray, so a clear window here, and build a POP containing carton and display that edible right in retail so that people can actually see what they're getting. So people are trying to find their ways around it. You can show it in retail, you just can't, got to make sure it's shut before it goes out the door.
Interesting. All right.
Isn't it?
Well, this has been very informative. Let's see, I guess we're over our half hour. Kendra, do you have any more questions?
No, because I think my other questions were more around what, the only thing, and I think you mentioned this with the bags, but what advice would you give to, what recommendations would you give to someone just starting out beyond the 3 bullet points that you gave us in the beginning, when it actually comes to the packaging? If they have their brand and design, what things do people need to think about as they're creating their edibles, or as they're planning on packaging those products if they're just starting out?
Well, I would say keep it simple. A lot of people will come to me and they're going to have this huge, all these SKUs. And I'm like, oh my God. You know, I had one client come to me and they're like, well, we've got our cookies, but we want them in a single pack. We want them in a 3-pack. We want them in a 6-pack. And I'm like, oh my God, do you have all the money in the world? I mean, why are you asking? Why, you know, what should we do? So, I mean, the number of your SKUs, really think about your customer and think about what it will take to get your product out to market as inexpensively as possible while maintaining a quality brand and a quality packaging. So the fewer items, the better. While you're trying to get out with 1 item or 2 items, get some money coming in, and then you can have some resources to develop your next items. So I would say make sure you hire the best graphic design you can, because that's sort of like, that's who you are, and it's got to be on point. So spend your money on graphic design. Be careful with the number, you know, try to make sure you have enough budget that you can do 3 months in advance so that you can get some of those efficiencies, quantity efficiencies. If you could print custom, it is so much more than just putting a label on the bag. But your first out might just be a label on the bag, and that's okay. Going to get you started, but your next iteration are fully customized printed bags or other boxes.
No, it's great. Thank you.
I agree. No more of those plastic bags with the home job stickers on the front. That is no go. Nice.
It's a quick fix, but maybe not your long-term plan.
Well, thank you so much for enlightening us to the number of options that we actually have. And I'm still kind of tripping out on the fact that they actually give kids and seniors these packages to open.
Yes, they do.
Very interesting. Kary, how can people reach you? I think there are probably a lot of women who are interested in getting in touch with you to find out more about packaging.
Sure. They can reach out to our website, either me personally or our info. So info@hippopackaging.com or Kary@hippopackaging.com. Just give us a shout. Go to our website. We have the regulations at a glance for California on our website. We have some resources there. If you're building a brand, we have a questionnaire to help you define your brand. Who do you want to be? Who are you going for? Who are you? So there are some resources to help people get started. So please dig around on our website.
And you work with not just California companies, correct?
That's right. We've got companies all over the state, Alaska, Canada. So we're North America right now.
And you're well versed in the packaging regulations for each area.
Yes. Well, I would say that we are, and we have a compliance person, an attorney on staff that helps us. We've actually just started offering a compliance check on packaging coming in as a value add for our customers. It's not in place of their own legal advice, but at least we can look at it and say, okay, you got to check this, or let's make sure this is there and this is there. So it starts that conversation. At least they can check it with their legal.
Excellent. So I'd love to have you back as a mentor on Mentor Monday as we get closer to these changes again in December, and see if we can help maybe cut off some problems at the past so that we can avoid something like what's happened.
Yes, I would love that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
Kendra, thank you so much for joining me on our co-host today. I've enjoyed
Thanks, Kendra.
Yay, thank you guys. It's been fun. I've learned so much.
So nice to see you. Hopefully I'll see you guys at NCIA up in San Jose.
Yes, you will. And ladies, if you will be at NCIA, you can meet Kary there and talk to her in person about packaging. Are you going, Kendra?
I'm on the fence right now.
Yes, Kendra's going, as am I. So look for us there if you're going to NCIA. And I hope that you have enjoyed our first day of the making of the smartest person in the room. We have spoken with some really incredible women today. I have learned a lot. I hope you have too. And tomorrow we're going to be digging into operations. So we're going to be talking about banking and training and all those fun things you get to do as a business owner to put your business together. We're going to have some really great guests with us tomorrow. And listen to this. We have a really special announcement tomorrow. We are going to be releasing our group health insurance plan. So if you have a cannabis company, if you are a solopreneur who works in cannabis, we now have a health insurance program that is very cannabis friendly with some really great discounts and health and wellness focus. So if you're looking for health insurance, you definitely want to tune in and hear our interview tomorrow with Renee Ritchie. All right, that is it for me today, ladies. Thank you so much for your support and joining me on this very interesting journey of the making of the smartest person in the room. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.